Have you heard of coffee badging? This is when, as a reaction to return to office mandates, employees badge in to the office just to grab a coffee so that they're counted as present and then they go home. A new study showed that 50% of hybrid workers are guilty of this.
Just for me to clarify what she's just said. So you're a hybrid worker, okay, and you've come into the office. Let's say you do 9 to 5.
Yep.
You've come in at 9. You've swiped in, but then you've left to grab a coffee.
Yes.
And then you've obviously swiped out.
Yes.
And then gone home.
And you're thinking, I was doing this before COVID.
Well, I'm just thinking, how is that even a play? Because if anyone wanted to get you on this, there's gate records. You could be easily pulled up on this. This isn't a solution to me.
A solution to what?
Gaming the system. This isn't a solution at all.
Is anyone marketing it as a solution? It's a trend. A reaction.
To being required to be in the office.
Yes.
So if your manager was worried that this trend was occurring, you're telling me he's not going to pull the swipe card records and say you were here for an hour. I mean, it's all electronic, it's all tagged. Look, unless you're in a small business, in which case the environment's small enough for you to notice.
Okay.
The employees aren't around.
So this video person is reacting to an article on Indie 100 that says, what does it mean? Coffee badging is a new trend. And you're saying it means nothing.
It means nothing because it's not a gaming of the system. You know, because no manager or one-up would see that as being equivalent to you being in the office.
Okay.
I don't think it achieves anything.
This is going in a completely different trajectory than I had assumed it could have, which is great, right? So let's discuss this point of tension. Regardless of whether you're gaming the system, you are creating a power play. Do you agree?
You're trying to.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, okay, so what does this achieve? So what does it achieve? You've gone in at 9. You swapped out.
Why does it need to be strategic, right? Lots of people impulse respond to things that don't have strategic foresight.
I mean, sure, you can argue it from there, but this is just lemming behaviour. I just don't. I mean, this is easily sorted out. I mean, it's such a non-solution to me that, you know, you pull the gate records, you're like, hey, I saw you come in from 9 to 10 on 3 days. You claimed to be in the office. Obviously, you weren't here. So what were you doing?
Badging. One, it's going to increase. I'd argue as return to office mandates continue, more employees will coffee badge as a form of protest,
Do you agree?
showing up just long enough to be counted before leaving.
Do you agree?
No. I think a variant of what she's saying will happen. So, again, what she's saying is you come in and effectively leave almost straight away. I think what will happen instead is you, between 9 and 5, will go out multiple times for coffee and social activities.
Wow.
So you're there between 9 and 5, and then when people ask, you know, why weren't you at your desk? Well, you can say meetings or went to grab a coffee or whatnot. But your final checkout time is 5 o'clock.
Wow. I see. Yeah, okay. I'm not a fan of that. I'd much prefer a culture that promotes come in, clock in, do your relationship networking, and then if you've chosen to maintain productivity from home afterwards, go on. Again, right, I come from the perspective where I'm not a supporter of 8 to 5. If you've got 30 hours work in a 40-hour week, then leave after 30 hours. So I'm coming from that perspective as well.
2, I think we'll see tech adaptations. You know, companies will probably implement more advanced tracking systems to monitor actual face time, work hours, and productivity. And 3, we'll see more flexible work arrangements. Among those few companies that recognize the employee pushback, some of them are going to shift towards more flexible arrangements to reduce that need to rebel against random rules in the first place.
It looks like the people at these companies don't feel they can do a half day in the office, half day at home. So they feel like that's not an option for them. If there's a hybrid model that they've got, you're either fully at home or you're fully in the office. And so they're trying to actually create a scenario of half and half, potentially. Now, does that sound like coffee badging? No, because if you're leaving immediately after, you can't guarantee they're doing the meetings and the social, the check-ins, right? But to her last point, yeah, hopefully this means that one of the options is you can do half days in the office, say 9 to 12, and then after lunch you can leave, or you just come in for your day of meetings as required, in the afternoon or whatever it is.
So I already do that. That's the thing. I mean, I've never called it coffee badging.
Well, I don't think it's coffee badging in that sense. I think because this sounds derogatory to me and it sounds like a problem to solve, whereas what you're describing is not a problem to solve. That's just a good hybrid working model.
So, for example, on a Tuesday at 9 o'clock, we have a team-wide coffee, and I do everything I can to come to that meeting. But, occasionally, for me, I need that day to be flexible for a variety of commitments, some work-related, some not. And I have left straight away after that coffee before. Doesn't mean I'm not working.
Yeah, and I don't think that should be stopped. And I don't think that should be labelled as coffee badging either. It just seems like a legitimate hybrid method that you've employed on that day.
The hard part is, do I believe, and this might be going too much into the ideology of working from home, but I'll give my view. I don't believe I'm any more productive at home versus in the office from an efficiency point of view of my capabilities to execute whatever tasks are needed. Where I definitely see benefit of working in the office versus from home is collaborating with people face-to-face is different than collaborating with them on Teams.
100% agree with you there.
Right, and anyone that denies that, well, maybe there's some specific sequence task, but if you're doing anything in parallel, you can't surpass in person.
Yep.
And again, I've got a lot more flexibility with my role and independence that I've got in it, that I can make sure I always come in for face-to-face as required. I suppose other people don't have that luxury. When I was thinking of the perspectives, where I came from is, again, if I put myself in my shoes and not the average Joe, then from the worker's point of view, I'm supportive of coffee badging, because in the end, what you're saying is, yes, I can do the tasks that I can by myself wherever I am, but I'm actually showing you that I care about this team, these people that I'll come in and build face-to-face relationships. So I'm actually supportive of from a worker's point of view. And then from a manager's point of view, I think your perspective, which is commenting on trust, which is where the KPIs and performance monitoring metrics and measurements come from, there's an opportunity for that sword to be swung both ways. So one side is to not trust the employees, and the other side is to trust them. And I think that's an important impasse that a manager has to decide for themselves and how they want to run the team. But I would hope that managers can recognise that there are workers that would be coming in and doing this specifically, the relationship build, and therefore you should trust. Regardless though, there's a lot of talk from CEOs and the like about the elimination of working from home, and not just in America, even in Australia here as well. What do you think the perspective of a VP or director would be?
Oh, look, at that level, you're looking at metrics and KPIs because you're isolated from the reality. So you'd say to your teams, is this a concern? Has productivity dropped? And different teams have different KPIs for that. And then if there is a concern, then they would start implementing technology or policy changes. If there isn't a concern around productivity, which should be the ultimate driver of this, I think if you're having a knee-jerk reaction to employees having work-life balance because you don't trust them, those are some of the worst companies to work for. Like you said, there's no trust.
Okay.
But, let's say you're at a VP level, your company's tasked with making 500 cars a month or whatever it is. You're meeting that KPI.
What's the problem? Anything more on this question?
Nah, nothing for me.
All right. Did you get anything from it? No.
No. N-O.
All right.